Nowadays, many people believe in a modern truth that anyone stuck in their comfort zone must break free as soon as possible. People glorify change and encourage each other to shed their old selves to grow stronger. This self-development trend appears in motivational speeches, best-selling self-help books, stirring anxiety among those feeling stuck yet unsure where to begin, but don't know where to start. However, the comfort zone that we often view as a barrier is actually a place of peace. It also holds personal pains and legitimate reasons that cause someone to hesitate. In this video, I want to introduce you to Grace Poddell from the film Memoir of a Snail, to talk about the struggles within one's shell. Grace is a girl who grew up in tragedy. Her mother died giving birth to her, and her alcoholic father also passed away, and she was separated from her only sibling. Facing so much loss, Grace withdrew into her own world, living in solitude and finding comfort in snails, creatures that carry their homes slowly on their backs. So, what should we prepare? And how do we know when it's the right time to step out of the comfort zone? Let's step into Grace's shell and find out. Humans, when hurt, instinctively learn to protect themselves. Our ancestors once sheltered in caves to avoid wild beasts and harsh weather. Today, we build comfortable homes to live in. In any era, creating shelter is a natural act of self-preservation against dangers, while also preserving the integrity of the body. But sadly for Grace Poddell, she didn't have a complete body even in her mother's womb. Born prematurely with a cleft palate, she underwent life-threatening surgery just to survive. Grace's mother passed away shortly after giving birth, so Grace and her twin brother Gilbert only knew their mother through old photographs. Their father, Percy Poddell, was left paralyzed after a car accident caused by a drunk driver. When Grace reached school age, her surgically repaired lip became a target for bullying. Given all the hardships she faced from birth, it's no surprise that Grace constantly withdrew into herself. Her home was the only sanctuary where she could truly feel comfortable. She quietly spent most of her time reading books and watching favorite TV shows with her brother. Grace loved her bedroom, a space where everything had its own place. Grace's mother, a biologist studying mollusks, had left her many books about snails and a box full of snail-shaped jewelry. These became a magical source of encouragement for Grace. She crafted clay snails one by one, placing them neatly on shelves with perfectly square corners that she loved for their tidy structure. Despite her tragic fate, Grace had a warm heart. She couldn't stand by when someone was in trouble. Whether it was a homeless person or someone shunned by society, Grace would find a way to help. Once, she helped a judge who had lost his position. When he was wandering drunk in the streets, he repaid her kindness with a snail, who later became the mother of Sylvia, a snail Grace held very dear. At this point, Grace still saw the bright side of life. To her, the glass was always half full, and she believed that opportunities would come after hardships. This stood in stark contrast to Gilbert, who always saw the glass as half empty and the world as unfair. Gilbert Poddell was a pragmatic boy. He constantly wanted to break barriers and refused to be confined by rigid molds. Gilbert wasn't afraid of danger, for recklessness ran in his blood. His dream was to become a street artist in Paris, just like their father. That's why, from a young age, playing with fireworks and matches or practicing fire breathing became part of the siblings' wild childhood. Gilbert's carelessness wasn't about being rebellious or becoming some sort of anti-hero. He loved animals, was a vegetarian, and didn't hesitate to unlock neighbors' bird cages to set the birds free. Gilbert was the one who donated blood for Grace's difficult surgery and acted as a shield protecting her from bullies. The twins took care of snails, and Gilbert didn't hesitate to immerse himself in his sister's unstable universe. The boy was a hero, a familial shield that Grace believed would never fade away. But after all, they were just children, and it would be a big omission not to mention their father here. Percy Poddell was once an animator, and to support his passion, he also worked as a street performer. A car accident took away his ability to walk and left him with sleep apnea. Losing his wife and his ability to work, he sank into sorrow and gradually became an alcoholic. He could no longer care for the twins, only able to recount memories of performing magic tricks on the street or show them the animated films he once made. Trips to Luna Park for roller coaster rides or afternoons spent reading together were rare moments when the family truly existed. In contrast, it was the two children who had to keep watch over his sleep, alert for every time his breathing stopped. The whole family lived in hardship. And Grace and Gilbert's longing for a normal life was as fragile as the glasses of liquor Percy constantly drained. It was hard for this man to become a role model for his children. Amid his constant drunkenness, Percy pinned his hopes on lottery tickets that could change his life in an instant. This passive mindset left a significant impact on the two kids. Gilbert's aggressive attitude could only make the bullies hesitate before bothering his sister. But he himself still took all the punches. As for Grace, she retreated deeper into her own safe space. Percy passed away due to worsening sleep apnea, and the siblings were separated. Each was adopted by a different family in two different directions. Now, with no parents to guide her and no brother to lean on, Grace's life was turned upside down, literally. The feeling of being in a safe zone is always conflicted. On one hand, you feel protected. On the other, you want to rush out but fear hardship and challenges. Grace lived in this state every day. A constant tug-of-war between living true to herself or trying harder to fit into society. Even when adopted by a good family, things didn't get any better for Grace. The couple Ian and Narelle knew Grace had psychological trauma, but they tried to help her in their own way. Every week, they gave her self-help books to enlighten her. They printed stacks of certificates with hollow congratulatory words. They encouraged her to attend personal development classes, which were really just scams aimed at gullible parents worried about childhood trauma. They pushed her to play basketball, and Grace had to fake asthma attacks just to ease their forced concern. Ian and Narelle weren't bad people, but they didn't know how to cultivate genuine empathy with Grace. They were more addicted to the feeling of being good people. This couple were even swingers, people who swapped partners to seek excitement in their marriage. It seemed adopting Grace was just another cover-up piece for their unconventional lifestyle. The absence of genuine familial love had a severe impact on Grace's mental health. Without a sense of safety, it was hard for her to build a stable inner world. This simmering state had been there since the days she started raising snails. When she reached puberty, Grace chose a boring library job, living withdrawn and eating recklessly. She drowned herself in cheap romance novels about charming sailors, filled with a gnawing guilt, thinking her father would be deeply disappointed to see his daughter living so aimlessly. Things worsened when Grace developed unhealthy habits like shoplifting and hoarding. Under the weight of psychological trauma, Grace's survival instincts twisted into harmful behaviors. These details showed her deep loneliness and longing for love. Grace read a handwritten letter from Gilbert, only to realize that life hadn't been much better for him either. He had been adopted by the Appleby family. Gilbert had to follow bizarre rituals, enduring the harsh treatment of his foster mother, Ruth, every day. He was not given a proper education and had to label apples after school hours, with most of his meager wages handed over to the church, as it was considered God's money. His passion for becoming an artist and his playing with fire were seen as signs of demonic possession, leading his foster mother to force him into baptism and drugging him to break his will. An unloved older sister, a younger brother under constant pressure. Two situations completely at odds with the sensitive nature of each sibling. Grace clung to life through the promise that Gilbert would one day cross the desert to find her, and that they would finally reunite. From this, we can somewhat understand that some people end up trapped forever in suffocating comfort zones, even when they don't want to be. For Grace, the cracks formed by a harsh childhood left her too weakened to break free from the shell enclosing her, constantly defensive, lacking the emotional support she needed to regain her faith. It became extremely difficult for Grace to trust herself. What she truly needed was a normal environment where she could open up and guidance filled with compassion. No matter how much someone isolates themselves, the outside world will eventually find a way to seep in. After all, we are communal creatures who need companionship and sharing. Aside from the letters from her brother, Mrs. Pinky was the first person to truly see Grace. She befriended her not out of pity or a desire to fix her, but to accompany her and teach her how to enjoy life. Pinky had lived a colorful, adventurous life, having held various jobs and gone through 2 marriages. Although both of her husbands had passed away, Pinky continued to seek joy, living life to the fullest like squeezing every drop from a lemon. Like Grace, Mrs. Pinky also had a soft heart for the weak and the vulnerable. She took Grace to visit the elderly at nursing homes and spent most of her time gardening as a way to live joyfully and freely immerse herself in nature. Pinky's optimism and energy served as medicine for Grace, keeping her from sinking deeper into loneliness and easing her longing for her brother. She did what Grace's father had failed to do: be a responsible adult to a child. Despite obstacles, her attitude played a vital role in Grace's journey to maturity, encouraging her to crawl out from the shell she had built around herself. But life was never that easy. No matter whether one starts off with a bright or harsh beginning like Grace, there will always be hypocrites and unexpected misfortunes along the way. For the first time in her life, Grace found true love. Ken, a microwave repairman. He moved close to her neighborhood, and they began dating. After so many years of lacking affection, Grace was finally fulfilled under Ken's tender care. He expressed his love beautifully through delicious food and drink, and took photos of her plump body, which he saw as angelically beautiful. The couple decided to get married, but on her wedding day, Grace's world collapsed when she received news that Gilbert had died in a fire. What was even more heartbreaking was how he had died. Ruth had cruelly punished Gilbert by electrocuting him and another boy in the family after witnessing behavior she deemed sinful, according to her beliefs. In a fit of rage, Gilbert tried to escape and set fire to the church, but she locked him inside the burning building. To explain Gilbert's absence at his sister's wedding, the foster mother did not mention the truth in the letter she sent Grace. Without any family left, Grace could not recover despite Pinky and Ken's attempts to comfort her. She started overeating again, lying around and drowning in grief. The only familiarity she had left was her room, filled with seashells she had collected over the years. As Murphy's Law states, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and in the worst way possible. At the most unexpected moments, Grace's life seemed to be a series of events that defied her hopes for better days. After being summoned to court for shoplifting, Grace discovered a devastating secret about the man she loved. Ken had a disturbing fetish, photographing the excess fat of plump women. He kept sensitive photos of Grace and had planned a feeding regimen using duck fat to indulge his fetish. Realizing that she was being abused both physically and mentally, Grace kicked him out of the house in tears, without a stable job, without any relatives, and when all the walls of defense she had tried to build could no longer protect her. Grace was forced to change. These past experiences had severely damaged their self-esteem. Their rationality became clouded when faced with toxic affections, and escaping from such a trap was not as simple as just walking out the door. Like a snail slowly moving forward, Grace began cleaning her house, burning away the stockpiled items in preparation for new plans, and released Sovia, the snail she dearly loved, back into its natural habitat. In the end, she gradually regained her vitality through the compassionate presence of Grandma Pinky. Grandma Pinky was now very weak. She was living out the final days of her life,